Hey everyone, welcome back to the railroad. The Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout and your host for an operations video on a manifest train, the MGRRV. It's been quite a while since I've done a video. Kind of took a break for a while. Everything is fine. Had a lot of people asking and wondering what has happened to me. I just took a break, that's all. Been having a lot of fun on the railroad, working on different things. But I'm back now with a video. Hopefully we'll get back to some kind of a regular schedule. I'm not sure if I'll be doing something weekly, but you never know. Maybe I'll do it more than weekly. We'll just kind of see how things go. Again, this is on manifest train MGRRV. In the Union Pacific naming scheme, the M stands for manifest, the GR stands for Green River, and the RV stands for Roseville, California. GR is Green River, Wyoming. So the manifest train goes from Green River, which is our staging yard for this layout, and goes to Roseville, California, and makes a stop here in Evanston Yard. So as the train is traversing across Wyoming and Utah, work is being done here at the Evanston Yard. This is the western side of the yard, and we have some engine operations going on here. We have a couple of switchers that are going to be doing the work getting cars ready. Before it's able to do that, though, this set of SD40-2s, actually they're SD40Ns, have returned from a local train that terminated here at the Evanston Yard, and they are heading back to the engine facilities to get ready for their next run. These are Athearn SD40Ns, which were rebuilt. So there's still some SD40s out there. These were originally SD40-2s, but they were rebuilt. I'm not sure exactly when. I think it's like 2010 or thereabouts. And they're heading back to the engine facilities. There's two different variations of the SD70Ns in Union Pacific that Athearn put out. The first one that's facing us right now has the remote control system set up. And if you look on the cab roof, you can see some flashing beacons. That means they're set up to be able to run on remote control. They have a little remote controller, and when they're flashing, that means it's under remote control. So the engineer can stand out on the porch or actually be on the ground while things are running. The second one there does not have the remote option, so does not have the little strobe lights. This is the engine facilities at Evanston Yard. It's a Walther's kit for both the fueling facilities and then also the engine house. I went around and did all the basic scenery, including ballasting, painting track, and all that stuff. Have tons of work to do on detailing. So you have to kind of picture this with the engine house weathered, completed, and then having the motor lines brought out with some weathering and downspouts and things like that, and then of course a lot of details to add on the engine facilities and so forth. Here's a switch list for this train, MGRRV. You have a list of the whole train, and it basically swaps out cars. So there's a list of setouts that have been blocked at the head of the train, and then a list of pickups, which are going to be picked up here at the Evanston yard. So with the train en route, the switchers here are going to find the cars that are to be picked up and get them ready so that when the train arrives, the cars can be easily swapped out and done so quickly. And then the train does not terminate here. As you know, it goes all the way to Roseville, California. So once the cars are swapped out, then it can continue its journey to Roseville. Now you can see there, there's a CEF 992143 reefer car. That's one of the cars that has already been put together or set aside. And there's a few other cars. I think it's like 5 cars total. So you have the reefer here. Another car on the list is this auto rack. If you notice my hand there, getting ready to push a button. I have these tracks all set up so I don't have to turn every single turnout, but instead I can just push a button and it will line up all the turnouts for each track. There are 7 tracks on this yard, and whoever is the yard master can decide how to use all the tracks. I have found the best method is to use the number 7 track, which is the furthest from the camera. Beyond the yard tracks is of course 2 mainline tracks. So the 7 track is the yard track furthest from the camera, and I usually use that for arriving and departing manifest trains. So the train that's going to be arriving in this particular operation scenario is going to be taking that the number 1 track, 1 out of the 7. I always number the tracks from furthest away to closest. So the number 1 track is usually used for arriving and departing manifest trains. And then the second and third track 2 and 3, I use for arriving and departing local trains. So they're both occupied right now, and that's from 2 local trains that have arrived and are ready to be sorted by the yard crew. Now that set of ST70Ns that returned to the engine house, that was from one of those arriving local trains. When we start the day, those cars in the tracks 2 and 3 are trains that are set to be departing. And then as the day goes through, you have the local trains departing and then local trains arriving. So at the start of the day, they're both departing trains, and then by the end of the day, they're filled with cars that have arrived and are ready to be sorted. Hey, now while that's still underway and the work being done at the Evanston yard, we have the train itself ready to depart, and it's gone all the way up in this mirror. That's a mirror mounted on the ceiling. You can see a reflection of the helix. So the mole who does the staging yard work and bringing trains up and down the helix has brought up our train, and it's just got a green signal, and so it's ready to depart. This is train MGRRV. It's headed up by a heritage unit, the KD 1988, which recognizes the MKT which is one of the many railroads to be merged into the Union Pacific. I assume someday we'll have a heritage unit for the Norfolk Southern. If that merger goes through, but it's taking off. You notice the signal turned from green down to red. And this is coming from Green River. So the staging yard represents Green River, and it comes up the helix. So we are leaving Green River and heading westward across Wyoming. And much of Wyoming looks like this. If you can see the background pictures, this is I used pictures that I actually took in Wyoming between Green River and Evanston. Starts out pretty sparse and lightly vegetated and fairly flat in a lot of places. And then as you get closer to Evanston and the Weber River Canyon and the Echo Canyon, things get more mountainous and a little bit more vegetated with the river being nearby. So this is going across Wyoming. There's a big long straightaway here on the railroad. Here you get a look at the train itself. Get an idea about the length of the trains. I'm definitely looking forward to doing a lot of detail work on the layout. I'm so glad that I got all the basic scenery done, but now I'm kind of thinking a lot and getting ready to get started on doing detailing work, and then also weathering. This is going to be much more realistic looking with the rolling stock weathered. Now you notice we're slowing down here. In the distance you can see an upcoming control point with all red, which means we are stopping. Even though this is a double track main line all the way across the entire railroad from Green River all the way to Ogden, doesn't mean we have a straight shot all the way, because there's always something going on somewhere along the main line. There you can see the length of the entire train. I think there's like 34 cars in this train, maybe a few more, a few less. All right, here we moved our camera position. You can see our train waiting there. You notice it turned its ditch lights off and dimmed the lights. And we could get an idea of what's going on and what the delay is. And as you can see, there's a train that's switching at the Westvaco mine. That's a Trona mine and also a processing plant. So while it's working on track 2, this coal train had to do a runaround, which makes us have to wait for it to pass through. Those are a couple of Tier 4 units and a SD70 ACE. I think the first 2 units were scale trains. These coal cars are auto floods by Rapido. And as you can see, they have a lot of really nice detail. You can see the rivet detail on the outside and the inside. So it's doing a crossover here from main 1 to main 2. Once it goes through, then we'll be able to continue on. Here we have the Canadian National Unit. Hey, with its pass, then the dispatcher, you can hear the turnout motors going. Dispatcher aligns the turnouts for us and gives us a signal, and we'll be heading out here shortly. These long shots are pretty cool, but it's hard to keep everything in focus, especially in the distance. It's good focus here in front, though, on the Heritage unit. Now, it should be turning its headlights on, its ditch lights, I should say. Usually they turn the ditch lights off and the headlight dimmed as the train goes by. You hear the two engineers are blowing the horn at each other. I guess that's why it didn't turn its headlights on bright yet. It was waiting to pass this train working the Westvaco yard. Now, when you're doing this at the actual operating session, of course, the crew there working the Westvaco would actually be doing some work, although it's kind of hampered right now because it can't go past the control point. You get another good look. This will be a much better experience with weathering. You need to do all the tie downs and everything on those Caterpillar equipment. Actually, they're John Deere, I think. And they also have people in some of them. I took some of the people out, but I definitely need to do a lot of that. Again, I've got a lot done on this railroad in the last 4 years, but still a lot to do. But I always found the detailing and weathering and so forth is highly rewarding, a lot of fun. Although I've had just an absolute blast so far to this point. All right, back to the yard. So we already set the auto rack there. And now we're going to put a tank car. You'd think it would have got more work done while we were watching the other train. So this is a one-man show. See, they mentioned the mainline tracks. So there's altogether 9 tracks here together. There's a little bit more distance between the mainline tracks and the yard track number 1 than there is between all of the yard tracks. Now, you may notice in the background that the engineers blow the horn every time they make a move in one direction or the other. And it is a rule, a Union Pacific rule, when operating, if a train goes forward it is to blow its horn twice and turn on the warning bell. And if it goes in reverse, it blows it twice. Here you can see the cars that I've picked up, kind of put little check marks on them. Looks like I have at least one more to put on. So anyway, I set up the ESU decoders that I have in all of my locomotives to automatically blow the horn twice if it's going forward, 3 times if it's going backwards, and then I have it ring the warning bell if it's going slow, and if it once it gets up to about 10 to 11 scale miles per hour, the warning bell will turn off. See, the bell came on as it slowed down. I also have a function key that's tied to that operating sequence. And so if you're operating on the layout and you get tired of hearing the horn and the bell, then you can press the function key and you can turn it off. And the rule is for the Union Pacific is to use those signals. However, there is a exceptions, I think, in the yard, or if you're with a switching crew. I forget what it is exactly, but there are exemptions to where you don't have to blow the horn and ring the bell. But I like to have it on. I think it's kind of a cool feature. It's hard to remember to do it if you're gonna, blow the horn and ring and turn the bell on and off on your own. So it's nice to have that feature built into the decoders to have it do it automatically. Probably should set the decoder in this case to keep ringing the bell a little bit longer. It turns off pretty quickly. But I'm constantly kind of tweaking things. See, I turned it off right away. Should be on the whole time right now. Anyway, but we've come to a stop. We have the cars all set and ready to go. As our train has passed the West Vaco control point and also the West Vaco mine and plant, and is continuing across Wyoming towards Granger. This is definitely a pretty desolate area, but changes pretty quickly once you get past. Here we have the what's called a double donut, and it signifies that you have permission to proceed, but at the next control point there will be a crossover. As we go through Granger itself, there is one crossing with automatic gates at Granger. And we'll go ahead and get a look at the whole train going past Granger. This is a pretty cool scene right here with guys working on the signaling. Here you can see some of the buildings in Granger. If you've ever been to the town of Granger itself, I think the population is like maybe 50 people at that. But all the buildings are on the south side of the tracks, and we're looking north. And there's not much on the north side of the tracks. Thought about switching that around, but this is only like 10 inches wide, so not really a lot of room to put buildings anyway. I think I am going to be putting some maintenance away equipment though. You notice there's a maintenance away bus there. These signals are by Details Plus, by the way, and the system to operate them is by Logic Rail Technologies. All right, so we're past Granger. Notice how it's going to be a little bit more hilly and a little bit more vegetation as we continue towards Evanston. And we're coming up to the Aspen control point, which is right next to the Aspen tunnels. On the prototype, it's the Aspen Altamont tunnels. The two main lines separate and go through two separate tunnels. Each one, here you can see the signal for the crossover. It's on main 1, which is the main that's normally used for westbound traffic. But since we're going to be entering the yard, it's going to be switching over to the left-hand side into main track 2. The actual prototype tunnels at Aspen and Altamont are like a mile or half a mile long. I do have the tunnels on the layout, but they're not separated quite as much as on the prototype, but they're not nearly as long, but they are represented along with the control point that is just east of the tunnels. Again, all the backdrop photos are ones I've taken myself at the actual location, or in some cases, not with these, but in some other cases I've used Google street side photos. Alright, so we've crossed over to main 2 and now we're in Evanston itself. These crossing gates are by Tomar, I believe. But still controlled by Logic Rail Technologies. And we're coming into the Evanston yard. This track nearest us is the track lead for the switcher. And then you have main 2 and then main 1. So we have the flashing red on the lowest signal aspect, which means we're going to be going at restricted speed. So you can probably tell that we're slowing down here. And we do have a train coming in the opposite direction, and it is moving. And right now, it looks like we're going to have a head-on collision. But luckily, the dispatcher is on top of things and has it set on a diverging route. And it's able to pass on main 1. Once it gets to Aspen, it'll cross over again back onto main 2. This portion of the Evanston sub, the main line is right-hand running for the most part, but we're left-hand right now. Now there's a slight downhill grade here. You notice there's a little bunching up. This is what I was used to in an N scale, by the way. But cars are pretty free rolling in HO scale. May have to get some friction springs or something in the axles of some of the last cars of the trains. Don't see it very often, but just every once in a while if you're going really slow and there is a slight grade, you have it. All right, but you can see the train is heading into the track 1 at Evanston. The train that's going in the eastward direction, it's the MRRV. All right, here we are at the western end of the Evanston yard. You notice as it moved slower, the bell came on. And it slowly comes to a stop. Now, this is going to be a two-part video, and the second part will be the swapping out of cars, and then the rest of the trip westward towards Ogden, so through the Echo Canyon and Weber River Canyon. We're going to wrap it up here, though, for this part one, as the train arrives at Evanston. You get a look at the entire train and get a look at all the tracks and cars at Evanston. We have the 5 cars ready to be swapped out. I'm kind of pulling up a little bit more here because I noticed I didn't quite clear the turnout. So we're now shut down and ready to go. Thanks so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for part 2. Take care, everybody.